Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Learning Sound Synthesis Spotlight Series interview with Heather Pruner. I'm so excited to be here today with Heather. We're going to be talking about how Heather went from generally feeling kind of overwhelmed by technology to embracing technology, learning modular synthesis, learning sound design, starting to score films, starting to release her own music, and a lot more. So we're going to talk about sort of the key insights and what Heather did that was really helpful in getting past that initial feeling of overwhelm and into a really amazing and fruitful musical practice. So thank you so much for being here live if you're tuning in. And thank you, Heather, for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Can you start us off with a little introduction to who you are and maybe what kind of music you like to make?
Yeah, gosh, I mean, I've been a fan of music my whole life. My dad was always playing music all the time, like really like Dire Straits and rock music, and 60s and 70s stuff, but also a lot of electronic stuff. Like one of the things I grew up listening to was Hearts of Space on NPR. And he had a lot of like those compilation albums that Hearts of Space released and everything, and like the soundtracks to like Dune and Blade Runner. So like, and a lot of like Steve Roach, Vangelis, Brian Eno. So I always loved just all kinds of music in general, but especially like electronic. I joined band in middle school on flute. So flute was my first instrument. And I just, I listened to a lot of the like 90s alternative, stuff like that edition, but also film scores. I became obsessed with film scores very early, especially John Williams. Actually, this is the opening chord to Star Wars on my arm. So yeah, uber geek. Cool. But yeah, as far as music making, it was very classical background for quite a while. But then I kind of circled back more recently in life to loving the electronic music. It just never occurred to me that it was something I could do because, as we'll probably get into more later, I have never been someone who naturally clicks with anything related with computers or technology. I joke that if it talks in ones and zeros, it doesn't tend to like me or it'll do weird things around me. So, yeah.
You mentioned, I think at some point you said that your artist name, Super Glitch, comes from that. So you gave yourself that name just because.
Yeah, actually, I think it was coworkers who originally, I forget exactly the situation in the person, but a couple of people, they like, I was always the person who like, something's going weird with this computer. And they're like, well, did you do this and this and this? I'm like, and they're like, well, that's weird. That shouldn't be happening. I'm like, great. So people started calling me Glitch. And then as I started in the past year, somewhere in the last year or so, I was like, hey, if I make electronic music, I should just lean into this and just, maybe it's a superpower in disguise. So like decided, okay, Super Glitch. I'm just going to own it. I'm Glitch. Things go glitch around me.
I mean, okay, I love that for so many reasons. One, it's just kind of an awesome story, like an awesome origin story for the name. But also, I think, thinking for myself and probably a lot of other people, if you're the kind of person where things just kind of don't click technologically with you, I feel like most people would be like, this is not, I can't do this. Like they would just think of it as a closed door, but you're like, no, let me, well, you like fully embraced it. You're like, let me lean into this glitch thing. Did you ever feel though, like early on when you were thinking about getting started with synths or taking your first steps trying to get it into it, did you feel like maybe it was too much of a mountain to climb?
Yeah. Well, it felt really overwhelming, not just because I don't generally click easily with technology, but there are so many, like the more I find out about music production, like, because in college I was more of a, it was more traditional, more like the highest tech thing I used in college was, was it Sibelius or Finale, where you plug in the notes on the staff on the computer screen. But the more I've learned recently about any kind of music production, not just electronic, but, there's everything from like microphones and DAWs and amps and just there's so much. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. I just want to learn how to make a synthesizer make sounds.
Yeah.
So sometimes if I ever have an issue with anything computer related years ago, you know, within about 3 minutes, I'd just be like, oh, I'm out. I can't. I would just get so frustrated. It would feel like a waste of time. But that has changed, as we'll probably talk about as we go on.
I can relate
Mm-hmm.
to that feeling. I think so many people can relate to that feeling of like, this is an endless mountain of stuff I have to learn. Where do I
Mm-hmm.
even begin? And it can be
Yep.
so overwhelming. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just to shout out to anyone who is watching who feels that way currently, keep watching this interview. I think you're going to find it really, really inspiring, but also just know that it's, you know, it's normal to feel like you're swimming in an ocean of like options and
Mm-hmm.
tools and concepts and ideas and new words and funny acronyms. Like that's just what it's like, but it is
Mm-hmm.
possible to kind of cut through all of that and learn how to make music with these things. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what can you take us through sort of I guess what you did next? Like you were like, well, I glitch a lot of things, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to make electronic music.
Yeah.
How did that unfold?
Yeah. So I guess it was around 2020 when I kind of made the decision I want to get a hardware synth. And part of that was because of my history with just dealing with a computer and everything inside of a computer. It's just that I like the tactile of hardware. So I really, you know, and I was like, I think it would be less overwhelming if I just have this one synth and I want to figure out how all the knobs and the thing, you know, and I'd heard about modular. I had heard about modular and how it works a little bit, and I was really intrigued, but I was like, oh man, that's so tech heavy. I don't know. And the more I started looking up, well, what kinds of synthesizers are there? Because I didn't really understand, like, what's the difference between what is a modular synth?
Sorry.
Oh, Katie.
She really wants a lot of attention right now.
Oh.
She's actually stuck to my sweater.
Cats.
Okay, there we go.
Oh yeah.
We love cats. We
Yes.
love
Cats and synths go together. Yes.
Sorry, keep going. So you're looking into the different types of synthesizers that are out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to get into that. I've heard how freeing, you know, modular is and how much you can like find your own sound and everything. But when I realized that semi-modulars were a thing specifically, and when I was doing my research, it kind of kept leading me in the direction of like the Moog semi-modulars. So I finally, after watching a lot of like YouTube videos and recommendations and tutorials, I decided on the Moog Matriarch. Which when I visited Moog one time and I told them that was the first synth I ever bought, they were like, "All right, you really jumped in there." I was like, "Yeah." But I'm like, well, it has a keyboard and I don't have to patch it, so you know, it seemed like a good best of both worlds. But yeah, I'll never forget the first time I watched the video. I think it's called Place Time Memory, and it's when they first came out with the Matriarch. It's like a demo video, and it has Lisa Belladonna, Paris Strother, and like two other people intercut between, and they're each performing on the Matriarch. I just remember watching that going, wow, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So yeah, I got that, and I started following Lisa very closely and listening to, let's see. So there's Lisa Belladonna. I became a huge fan of hers. There was another artist. Her name is Bad Snacks. Huge fan. They're very, very different. They couldn't be more different in their music, which is what I got this. I feel like I got a signal from the universe because summer of 2022, I had a lot of personal stuff was going on in my life. It was kind of a rough time for various reasons, but I was scrolling through and I saw on Lisa Belladonna's feed that she was going to be performing at this event called Velocity in Seattle. It was like a modular thing. And first I was like, oh man, that'd be nice if I could go. And then I look at the headliner list and Lisa and Bad Snacks were performing, and they were currently two of my favorites. And I'm like, that's crazy that they're both performing at the same thing, because they are so different in the type of music they make. And I was like, I think I have to go to Seattle. Like if it had only been one of them, I would have hemmed and hawed a little bit more, but I'm like, I have to go to this event.
Yeah. Yeah.
YOLO. I have to go
I
to this
love
event.
that. Uh-huh.
So I went and I started listening to, sometime around the same time I had found Podular Modcast by Tim Held. And I noticed, because I was trying to look up, I think, a lot of these different artists that were going to be performing it in Seattle. And you know how you can see like podcast episodes with the same person. And I kept seeing Podular Modcast. So I started like binge listening to a bunch of those. And that's where I discovered you, because he interviewed you. And it's funny, I have this really vivid memory of sitting on the airplane to go out to Seattle. And I was actually listening to the episode where he interviews you on the plane to go out to Seattle. And then he was actually there. Tim Held was there.
Uh-huh.
And let's see. So Tim was there. Bad Snacks was there. Lisa was there. And I got to say hi and hang out with both of them for a moment. Todd Barton was also there. And Jeremy Blake from Red Means Recording. A lot of people are probably familiar with him.
Yeah.
They were all there doing sets.
Sounds like an amazing convergence of people, and
it was amazing.
Like early on in your kind of adventure, it's like that must have been so inspiring.
Yeah, and that's kind of what made me realize, like, just how welcoming and fun the modular community is, because you know, especially as a woman going into one of these things, like, we were definitely a bit in the minority, but not as much as I would have thought. And like, you know, you can imagine like something like this that's so tech heavy, you know, a lot of people who haven't been in this world much might kind of assume like, yeah, it's a lot of like tech bros that'll like mansplain things to you and da da da. But like every person I talked to were just so like, I didn't feel looked down upon or condescended to, and like it was just it was an amazing. I felt at home already, even though I felt like I barely knew 0.001% of what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
so
it's an amazing
that was really
community.
encouraging.
Yeah, that is encouraging, and I'm really happy to hear that that's the experience you had. And shout out to everyone watching for being part of the community and continuing to make it such a spot. I was trying to say supportive and positive at the same time. Such a positive.
So positive?
No, no, that's not right.
Supportive and positive.
So, okay, that's awesome. So then you know what? Why did you decide to enroll in learning sound and synthesis and kind of go that direction with your modular synth?
Yeah, I think it's like ever since that happened, and you became one of the people I started following a lot. And I just, I really liked your energy. You just, like very approachable. And I was like, okay, this is someone I feel like I could learn a lot from. And they seem really so passionate about teaching. So I think it was February of last year, 2023, February. I saw that I'd been hearing about that you had courses and things. And I saw that the doors were opening for LSS and registration was coming up. And at first, I was talking to my husband one day and I was like, man, I really, really want to do this course. Maybe like when it goes in the fall, I'll save up for it and try to learn a little bit more before I like jump in. He's like, just do it. Why don't you just do it? He's like, we'll figure it out. Just do it. I'm like, really? Are you sure? You sure? It's like, yeah, so I just signed up. And, I think the thing that really helped me decide to jump in was the fact that you can learn at your own pace and watch things as many times as you need, and that it's always, all the content's always available. So that, because sometimes I will hesitate to jump into something like that if I feel like, well, I don't feel like I know enough to get enough out of this. Sometimes there's that assumption of like a prerequisite.
Totally.
And I was like, if I do this now, I might not like get my money in time's worth, or if I'm not able to carve out, like take a bunch of time off of work and like sit there and just work on it before the class is over, then I won't. Maybe I should do it later. But the way you had it set out, it was I didn't have that anxiety. I was like, oh, okay, I can literally just take as long as I need to do this. So why not just start now?
Yeah, that whole like I need to be ready in order to take my first step thing is just such a funny thing that we do. We being humans, like we're like, oh, I need to know more about this before I can start to make my music, or I need to, have more time before I can make more progress on my project. And it can feel really convincing, but it's just something that I catch myself on as often as possible, where I'm like, actually reversing the order on things, you know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yep.
like a course, for example, ideally is something that will save you time because you're
Right.
not searching for answers. You're not going through 5 million random, videos that don't connect and trying to troubleshoot on your own. Like ideally it's something that should expedite your process.
Right.
So yeah, I'm glad that you and your husband decided like, let's jump in, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm also happy you mentioned like watching videos multiple times. I'm the kind of learner who always has to watch things like 10 to 15 times.
Oh yeah.
That's just the way my brain works. And so when I was putting together this class, I knew that was really important. It's like, I want to be able to let people learn in their own way, in their own time.
Yeah.
So that was something that you did as well to kind of work through that initial tech overwhelm, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I find like, every time I watch something, so it kind of, sort of the way I've been kind of progressing through the course, I think is like, let's say I'll watch module 1 videos, like say 1 through 4 and and like kind of follow along exactly with what you're doing. And then at the end of each video, I'll tend to like, okay, now I've built that patch. I still have this patch set up on my screen. Now I'm just going to dig in and, see how many variations of every parameter I can. And sometimes that just like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then sometimes it ends up being like this whole thing of, oh, wow, I discovered this cool sound here. And now let me record this and actually like make it a little piece, and, or at least like a little exercise. So I think of it as like a loop. So I sort of, instead of doing the class like this, I'm doing it like this.
That's
So like,
exactly.
I'll watch a little bit ahead, and just until I get to the point where I'm like, okay, now my brain's starting to hurt a little bit. I'll go back a few videos, and I've noticed like if I go a little bit ahead, as soon as I go back, the ones that I go back to make a little bit more sense each time. So I go further forward.
And it's never an actual step back. It's never a step back.
Right.
It's like
it's a step deeper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, Heather, something that you've been doing, we were talking about just before we went live, that I really want to acknowledge you for and encourage other people who are in the class. Like if you're watching this and you've just enrolled, or you were in it from a previous cohort or anything like that, I'd love to encourage you to do this as well. It's the idea that you're taking time after every few lessons to make something. And that means you're progressing slower through the class, but in the last, I think you said that you've been in LSS for 1.5 years now, roughly.
Yeah, I think it was February 2022.
Yeah, something like that. You have made so much progress and you've also made so much music, and it's so cool to see. What I always tell people is, and I truly believe this, like you don't need to be an expert in something in order to start exploring it creatively. It's okay to know just a percentage of your gear at first and to start creating with it. And of course, like we always strive to know things deeper. We want to keep learning our gear, keep improving our skills. Like I'm not saying we stay with only 5% knowledge, but you can start there. And what I love that you're doing is that you're releasing music, you're scoring films, you're doing so many things. And it's so cool to see, like, you're not waiting to like be a perfect student, complete all of the modules, and then you can start. You're just doing the thing. Can you tell us a little more about, just like where you're at now, or what this has all led you to, I guess?
Yeah. I guess the two main things that have been on my mind that I'm working on actively these days is late last year, in October, I got to do a sabbatical and I was able to borrow a friend's camper van that was like fully equipped. It even had solar panels, so I had power. And that was huge. So I kind of made it an artist retreat for myself. So I took this van and I drove. So I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Didn't mention that, but I took the van from Atlanta and I went all the way across country, or almost all the way across the Rockies to Utah, because I wanted to spend time in the desert. I just had this, I don't know why, I want to go to the desert. Yeah. And I took my Moog matriarch with me, my interface, my audio interface, my computer, and my small studio monitors. And anytime I found like a really cool spot that I could just like set up, one place was in like in the Rockies, one place was right outside of Arches, and then right outside of Canyonlands. I picked a few spots where I would just stay for like a couple of days and just not even move the van and just hang out. And I would set up all my gear during the day, like on the bed of the van. And I actually recorded a few like seeds of ideas of just whatever, I just messed around until I found a sound I liked, and I would record for like 5 or 6 minutes till I had something. And I'm like, okay, that's my like sound souvenir from this specific place. And I intend to do more. I did about 3 when I was out there, and I've done 2 tracks already. So my idea is just to do kind of like a concept album where I kind of log that journey, So I want to do, there'll be like, there's a track that I did that was this little piece of land right outside of Arches that was just mesas and field, and the van was just out in the middle of nowhere. Like you could see for miles in every direction. So I recorded something there. I recorded something before that when I was up in the Rockies. And so like a little campsite on the mountainside. And I want to do more. I visited White Sands. So I want to do, like a track about White Sands, Canyonlands National Park. And it's funny because I actually remember I joined an LSS call because I had like a Starlink with me. So I joined one of our LSS calls just sitting in the van in the middle of the desert. Because I didn't want to miss that.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That is such a cool journey. And I love that you're turning it into an album. I think that's so cool. Yeah.
Very like Steve Roach inspired, like ambient music. Yeah. I'm in my ambient era right now, I guess. So ambient music about the desert, you can kind of meditate too. So that's 2 out of the 3 tracks that are currently on my SoundCloud, but I want to turn it into a whole album to release at some point. But yeah, that and and the other thing that trip taught me is just to say yes, because I think Velocity started the whole like, just do it. If something's exciting but a little bit scary, just do it. Trust the universe, say yes, get curious. You don't have to know what's coming next. Some of that was very literal on the van. Like I would go on some of these, bumpy dirt roads, and like I had no idea where said road would go or if the van was going to get stuck or anything. So I think that experience really inspired like to throw a little bit more courage toward the music making.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just say yes. Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot the last couple of days. This is a bit of a tangent, but I saw a really beautiful flower growing through. I posted it on my Instagram story.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Little beautiful flower growing through a fence, like right in between these 2 tight fence wooden boards, and it had grown through and found its way through and blossomed, and it was gorgeous. And I was just thinking about the other side of the fence, and I was thinking about this, like the fact that it's so rare that we have a perfect plan, and it's so rare that we see the path in front of us and we know how everything's going to go. And it's more common that as we're growing and moving through life, it actually feels more like there's all of these like barriers and like question marks in our way, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like I stood at that flower. I stood there for a long time, and I was just like having a little moment with that flower. But it was such a good reminder. And this story that you're sharing kind of seems aligned in that sense. Like literally, as you're going down these dirt paths in the desert, you're like, I don't know what's down here. But then also more as you're, jumping into this new world, as a person who's like, I don't think I get along with tech. Let's do it anyway. Let's see where it leads. Maybe it'll be awesome. And it sounds like it has been.
Yeah, it became a big metaphor. Like there was even a point in the trip where I took the wrong exit when I was just trying to get from point A to point B, and I ended up and I pull up and I was like, so where am I? And this guy, it was like this ranger at a gate, and he's like, oh, this is Colorado National Monument. It's sort of like the mini Grand Canyon. And he's like, yeah, if you park fast, you can just. So I ended up driving around this like beautiful canyon park for like that I had absolutely no plan of going to. And I'm like, well, I'm here. Might as well explore. So I'm like, this is a metaphor for music making.
It is. We talk so much in learning sound and synthesis about how, failures and mistakes and like incorrect patches are, opportunities to figure out what what's in front of you, right? If you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I tried to make A and instead I got to B, it's not just a failure. It's kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I didn't get to A, but I did get to B. So like, let me investigate this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did I get here? What's going on? Now I know how to create B. I could do that again on purpose. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? There's all
Yeah.
these different ways of looking at things.
Yeah.
So I do want to mention for anyone who is watching who is curious about learning sound and synthesis, I just want to briefly put this URL up on the screen, soundandsynthesis.com. You can go there if you want to learn about the class. Learning Sound and Synthesis is my online modular synthesis and sound design class that Heather has been participating in.
Mm-hmm.
It's open for enrollment right now. This is actually very rare because I only open it twice a year and it's only open for a few days at a time for enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the week. You can go check it out. If you're curious, send me a DM, ask me questions, share with me what you're working on, and I'll help you determine if it's the right fit for you. If it's not, I'll point you in the right direction. And what else can I say? I mean, one of the big things I just want to echo that Heather mentioned is when you enroll in Learning Sound and Synthesis, you are enrolling with lifetime access.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're curious about learning this, but you're worried about time, or you've got a busy job, or
Yep.
you just had a kid, or whatever it is, these are all real conversations I've had with people in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
But you don't want to like wait an entire half a year or a year to just even get started. When you enroll, you're in for life. That includes all future coaching calls, all future updates I make to the class, everything that gets added, you automatically get access to as well.
Yeah.
It's a really special place. I'm obviously very biased, but it's an amazing community. And Heather, people like you
Oh yeah.
are part of what make it so amazing. So I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you for being part of it.
Yeah. And I'm totally not getting paid to say this, but oh yeah, and the thing I was saying earlier that you were like, that's actually a good point is imagine it's like if you wanted to enroll and to get a degree at a certain college, but you're like, oh, I don't have the time, like I'm not going to be able to go to all the classes. I won't be able to make all the exams. I don't have time to do all the work this semester. Maybe I should wait till next semester when I might have more time. It's like you pay your tuition for one semester and that's the only time you have to do it. And then for literally the rest of your life or indefinitely, you can come audit any class you want. You can turn in the work when you feel it's ready. Yeah. So there's no like, oh, but I don't have the time right now to get everything I need to out of the class because it's always there. The community is also amazing. That's been the other thing that's really helped me with anytime I have a tech issue, I posted in the forum. And the great thing for me about this community is it is so full of like tech savvy people that I'll post like a screenshot of like, okay, this isn't doing what I think it should. Here's a screenshot of what I was doing and how I set it up. And within like a day or so, like, Derek or Steven or you or Raina will get in there and be like, oh, have you tried this and this and this? And usually within a day or two of me coming back and doing a couple different sessions, I figured something out and I've learned something new. And so, don't let that part intimidate you.
We got you. We got you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for saying that. And again, thank you for being part of the community. It really is a big part of what makes it so special. So where can people I'm sure are like, I want to hear Heather's music. How do I stay tuned? Do you want to shout out your projects you've got coming up or
Sure.
SoundClouds or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on SoundCloud as Superglitch, all one word. I forget if I capitalize the G. I go back and forth with that. But so yeah, there's I don't know if we have a link in the description or something, but yeah, I'm on SoundCloud as Superglitch. I've got just a few tracks up now. I'm hoping by next year at some point to have like the full, Desert Trip album done. I've got a couple of short film scores. My husband's a filmmaker, so I scored most of one short film he did last year, and I'm working on another one now. Don't know when those will be available because I think they're going to try to submit some of those to festivals. So we're kind of on lockdown with that until they do festivals. But yeah, my SoundCloud so far is, I hope to maybe graduate to Bandcamp at some point, but for now, SoundCloud is nice. It's, it's easy, it's free. Mm-hmm.
I'm dropping links to your SoundCloud in the comments, and it is Superglitch with a capital G if you want to look for it, all one word.
Mm-hmm.
So that's there for folks. Awesome.
And if anybody's in the Atlanta area, I think I saw someone that was from Atlanta, like in that free course that you did a couple weeks ago. And, I know there is a Atlanta Synth Club, but I would love to touch base in person with more people. If you're a synth head and you're going to Dragon Con, hit me up on Instagram. We can talk because I'll be there all 5 days. Labor Day weekend.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much to everyone who's tuning in live. Thanks for all of the comments. Yes, Super Glitch socials. People are asking. So it's just Super Glitch, right?
Oh, actually, I need to figure out how to maybe change this. On Instagram, I'm actually Mouse Queen 1013. So that because that's an old hand before I even came up with Super Glitch. So yeah, on SoundCloud, I'm Super Glitch. On Instagram, it's Mouse Queen, all one word, 101. Yeah, 1013.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Perfect. I also see people who are asking, saying, is the link in your socials? I think that's referring to the Learning Sound and Synthesis link. Yeah, the link is in my bio. I know you can't click on the link that I was floating there on the bottom of the screen, but just go ahead and click through to my profile. You will find the link, or just send me a DM and I'll send it straight to you.
Yeah. Join us. It's fun.
Okay, Heather, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up for the day? Or
gosh, yeah. I mean, I would just say, just say yes. If it seems a little exciting and scary, just say yes. And remember, it's supposed to be fun. Oh, actually, I've been reading Rick Rubin's book, and there's a couple of sentences quote that I had bookmarked that I just love so much. I'll just close with this real quick, I guess.
Yeah.
He says in here, Oscar Wilde said that some things are too important to be taken seriously. Art is one of those things. Setting the bar low, especially to get started, frees you to play, explore, and test without attachment to results. Ultimately, your desire to create must be greater than your fear of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Learn to love the process. The process over product. That's what I've found is
the process.
Yeah. Because then time is never wasted. You're never wasting time if you're working on the process.
And if you do feel fearful, like the fear is one of those words that I comes up a lot in my teaching and my mentoring, because a lot of people say, like, I do have fears and they're not currently greater. Like they feel scarier than my desire to create feels exciting. Yeah. And so one thing that I just want to offer people is, if you do have a fear about, like, fear of rejection or fear of failure, it's normal. The thing that I choose to prioritize, because I have fear too, I'm human, the thing that I choose to prioritize is courage. So I choose courage and create courageous action. And I decide, you know what, I'm going to take action, even though I'm actually kind of like scared out of my mind right now. And I'm not talking about life-threatening fear, of course, but I'm talking about like vulnerable fear, putting yourself out there, expressing yourself in a way that people might love or might hate. You never know. That's vulnerable. I choose courage. And so that's something that I wanted to offer just as an extension of that really good Rick Rubin. I've read that passage too, and I think that one's highlighted in my copy of the book.
Yeah.
So good.
And then to quote Sarah, when you said curiosity is the antidote to overwhelm, and I also like to think of it as curiosity is how you turn fear or overwhelm into courage, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to get some of your quotes like that, like printed on LSS logo T-shirts, merch store.
We'll work on it.
Someone should get on that.
Maybe there's a book in the future. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take good care. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story.
Of course.
Everything you're doing is so inspiring, and your music is beautiful. So I just want to say, like, keep going. I can't wait to hear more. I'm looking forward to seeing you in future LSS calls.
Oh yeah, I join everyone I can.
Good. Yes. All right. And for everyone who tuned in live, thank you for being here. It's great to see you, and great to have you here. Send me a message anytime that you want to talk. If you have questions about learning sound and synthesis, now is the time to get them to me, because enrollment is open, but only for this week. It closes down on Sunday until next year. Okay, that's it. Talk to you all later.
Okay.
Bye for now. Thanks again,
Thank
Heather.
you.
Take care.